Welcome to this tutorial on Microsoft Excel. My name is Tanya Duffy, and what we're going to do today is create this table of multiplication, addition, subtraction and division. It's this nice simple exercise which will introduce the concept of absolute and relative referencing in Excel. Understanding these concepts of absolute and relative referencing will help you better work in Excel and be more efficient. And we're going to start with multiplication tables, so I'm going to type an X in the top left hand corner of where my table would be. Now I've typed that in cell B2, and if you've done any of my earlier tutorials then you'll understand that reference. So we'll put an X there, and now we'll format it, so up to the home ribbon, and I'll just custom put that ribbon back so you can see it and it doesn't disappear on us. I'm going to center where that X is, so horizontally and now vertically. And with any time multiplication table, you start with the numbers of 1 to 10 across down the side, and 1 to 10 across the top. So underneath our X, we're going to type 1 and press enter. Then we're going to click on that cell that we typed the 1 into, and we're going to go up to our home ribbon and across to fill series. So there's a little down arrow there, come down to where it says series, click on that. We're going to fill a series in a column, and we're going to step that value at 1 and stop at the value of 10. So we type 10 there and then click OK, and that has populated that column for us. We need to do the same across the top. So in C2 I'm going to type a 1. I'm going to click back on that cell where I typed 1, C2, go up to my little down arrow up here, down to series. This time we're going to fill a series in rows, and we're going to step a value by 1, and we're going to stop at the value of 10. So we've got our basic information in there for our times table. What we want to do is to format that. The easiest way to do that is to select the whole worksheet. So bringing your mouse cursor up to the top left hand corner next to the A there, just click once. Now bring your mouse cursor up between any of these columns, and you'll notice that the cursor has changed to one straight line with two arrows going away in either direction. You click with your mouse button and drag that. Now we're going to drag that to, let's say, 30 pixels and release your mouse. We will do the same for the rows. So bring your mouse cursor over between any two rows and click when you get that straight arrow over to straight line with two arrows. Click and take that down to 30 pixels and then release your mouse. We now have a table that has nice even square cells. Next thing I want to do is to select that table, so I click on where the X is, hold the mouse key down and drag my mouse down till I've selected that whole table, and we're going to format this and put in some borders. So we're going to right click on that, select format cells. Before I put in my borders, I'm going to go to alignment, and I want these numbers across the top here and down the side, and indeed all those numbers in the middle of the table, I want them to be centered horizontally. So under horizontal there, go down to center, and then on the vertical go to center. Now again, that is under the alignment tab, under horizontal and vertical. Once you've done that, we're going to go to borders now, and we're going to put a border all the way around the outside of that table, a nice bold border. However, we want to make that a bold border, so over here we select bold. We can change the color, so you can change that if you wish, but it's not necessary. Choose a bold line for the style and then select outline, and now click on OK. Now we have a nice clear border around the outside, and we have our numbers all centered. I've actually got too many columns there, So I'm going to delete a column. So I just right click and come down to delete. I've lost my border. No problem. Select the first cell, come down, select that range, right click, format, and put that border back. So making sure that is selected, that bold line, come over here, and we're going to click with our mouse on that line there. Or you could click on that arrow line there. Okay, let's go OK. We've got our table back. Now let's go to the cell between the 1 and the 1. We have a meet. So the multiplication table multiplies the cell on the left by the cell at the top. So all formulas in Excel start with equals, or Microsoft Excel I should say says the cell equals. And what does it equal? It equals this 1 times 1, but instead of typing 1 times 1, we're going to use our mouse and select the cell immediately to the left, and then we're going to multiply. Now in Excel we don't use a cross, we actually use an asterisk. And where you'll see your number 8 key on your keyboard, if you hold down the shift key and press that, you'll get the asterisk. Same for the right hand side of your keyboard, there is actually a number pad and you actually have an asterisk up there in the top right hand corner. You could use either of those, and I do recommend when you're working in Excel that you use that number pad on the right hand end of your keyboard. So back to this formula, this cell at the moment equals the cell immediately to the left multiplied by, and we need to select the cell immediately above but has the other value of 1. So we do that and we press enter. And what we have used is, I'll go back into that cell, is relative referencing. It is saying relative to where the active cell is. The active cell being the cell that has that dark border around it. Okay, so 1 times 1 equals 1, so that is correct. We have multiplied the cell to the left, multiplied by the cell above. What I'd like to be able to do is to be able to populate this table by copying this formula across to the right and then down. Let's see what happens if I do that. I'm going to copy that over, so when I bring my mouse cursor up to the bottom left hand corner of the active cell and I use my left mouse button, I click on that and drag it across, what happens is it's using relative referencing still. So I'm going to go in and have a look at each cell. Let's have a look at this formula. The cell equals the cell immediately to the left times the cell above. And that's not what we're trying to achieve here. Because I have used a relative reference, Excel reads this formula as cell immediately to the left times the cell immediately above. Let's go and see what happened down here. Click on that. This cell equals the cell immediately to the left multiplied by the cell immediately above, and that of course is not what we wanted to achieve. So we're going to undo that, and Control Z will undo that. Here we go. So there is a flaw by using relative referencing, and relative referencing is fine when you don't want to copy your formulas. So let's see what we can do with this. Okay, I'm going to click on this, and now I'm going to type. I'm going to click between the B and the 3, and I'm going to click on my keyboard the function key F4, which is the row of F keys right across the top of your keyboard. Now that has put in $signs before the B and before the 3, and let's see what happens when we press enter. Okay, we still have 1 times 1, and when I copy the formula this time, let's see what happens. Fantastic. We've got, let's have a look, this cell equals cell B3 times L2, and what is happening here is those $signs make this reference B3 absolute. So whenever I copy this formula, it will always look at this cell B3. And then I've multiplied it by the cell immediately above. Let's have a look at another formula. So again, looking at the absolute value of B3 multiplied by the cell immediately above. So F2, when I comes along to the next cell, becomes G2. and then if I come along to the next cell it becomes H2 and so on, because this is a relative reference and this is an absolute reference. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Now if I want to copy this row of formulas down, let's see what happens now. And unfortunately that doesn't work for us because only B3 is an absolute reference. So we need to do something about this. I'm going to undo that now. Undo this as well, and we'll go back to our original formula. And our original formula didn't have any absolute referencing at all. I'm going to try show you something else. We're going to put in now a $sign just before the B. So let's put in just a $sign before the B and press enter. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to make just the column B absolute. So the absolute reference is only on column B. And when I copy this formula down, it's not working for me because it's looking at the cell, yes, column B, but it's not looking at this reference up here. So let's see what happens when we make row 2 absolute. Put in a $, before the 2 value and press enter. So what I'm saying is I want to make column B absolute, so it always looks at column B, and I want to make row 2 absolute. Press enter. Copy that formula down now, and that's worked for me. It's looking at column B and it's looking at row 2 and it's multiplying what those values are. Now let's copy these formulas away to the end. And that has worked for us. Look at that. Let's double click on this formula. So this formula is multiplying the cell B12, the value in that cell, by the value in L2. So have a look at another formula in the middle of the cell. This one is looking at the value in B8 by the value in I7, and that's exactly what we wanted. So let's look at that absolute again. The $sign gives me an absolute reference for column, in this case column B, and row 2. That is absolute referencing. So this is a multiplication table. Now what you should be able to do is provide an example of addition, subtraction and division. Have a go at that, and I'll join you in the next tutorial.